Anyone who's been in Melbourne's CBD would have noticed a rise in the number of rough sleepers. It's a problem that's also growing in a number of inner city suburbs. We've got more people sleeping on the streets because government-funded hotel accommodation is no longer available as it was during the pandemic. Joining me now to discuss is reporter for the Herald Sun, Ms Delibasic, who has covered this issue extensively. Suzan, the Homeless Project Director, Stuart Allen, said that the state government borrowed money to put homeless people in hotels during the pandemic, but now that money has dried up and they're forced to leave and spend the nights on the streets.
That's right. I actually went out and spoke to people living with homelessness, Rita, and that's exactly right. That was the feedback, not only that homeless agencies had told us, but also that people sleeping rough said that because there's no money, they're now forced into these vulnerable situations and they're sleeping rough, they're being robbed, some are even being attacked. And the really sad thing is that majority of these people sleeping rough are actually women.
Wow. I think that would surprise a lot of our viewers that there are women in that situation. And of course, homeless women face all sorts of additional dangers.
They do. So even in one instance, a woman told me, and she was in her 40s, she actually said that she had to seek refuge near RMIT, so near a building there. And, one night she had her trolley and everything just, put out there, and it was all of her belongings that she had gathered up for the past month. And even down to her lunchbox was stolen. That is how bad the situation is, Rita.
And what sort of assistance is there for these people? And are most of them having issues with drug abuse and alcohol, or is that a stereotype that's no longer accurate?
Look, I'm sure that there would be some people having issues with drug abuse and with alcoholism. I think that that's very fair to say. I also think, though, that a lot of them just can't find safe housing. And obviously, as a consequence of not being able to find safe housing, they're turning to other coping methods. And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of and what even the Salvation Army said, an influx of people on the streets, especially after the pandemic. So we are seeing vulnerable people turning to situations that they don't want to be in, but they really don't have any other choice.
And they're becoming victims of crime. I'm sure some would have to be turning to crime to support themselves. So it's just creating a horrible situation in the CBD and those inner city suburbs that are still struggling to recover from the pandemic as well. So this is quite grim in the Melbourne CBD. There's a local council, state government. Have they got any concrete plans to address this?
I mean, the state government is helping assist people into some safe housing. So we did speak to some people who were sleeping rough that managed to find some accommodation. But then there were others who said that they had been left behind and that despite calls of wanting housing for some even up to 6 or 7 years, were still unable to find somewhere secure and safe. And they, just said that all these people want. One homeless man said to me, Rita, all I want is just a roof over my head, and that's all I've wanted for the past, for the past several years. So it was very distressing for them to be out this long.
And particularly after having some safe accommodation during the pandemic where they did have access to hotels, and now to be back on the streets with little hope of finding long-term housing. Ms Delibasic, you do important work. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Rita.